everybody. Welcome to Virtual Fables. Traditionally, we do this event live in non-COVID times, the second Wednesday of the month at the Next Stage Theater in Putney, Vermont. But we still have a commitment to having people tell their stories. Tonight's storyteller is Joanna Terry. Hi, Joanna. How are you?
Great under circumstances presently.
Exactly. Corona, excellent. That's
fabulous.
That's where we're at right now. Now, I will tell you that through scrolling through social media, Joanna told a story. She typed it all out and told a story, and I was like, wow, that would really be an awesome story for Fables. So I reached out to her. She said yes. It's a story about an Oldsmobile. Now, a little thing that you may not know is a love affair I had with an Oldsmobile Delta 88.
Nice.
All right. So we share our love for Oldsmobiles and taking us through some difficult times and some good times and bad and the keys to an Olds were the keys to freedom for me in college, and took that car all the way to California and back, and just had that thing my entire college career. And it was just a wonderful car, and I have a lot of fond memories in it. And I guess we're going to talk about some of the fond memories you had in your Oldsmobile, or fondish.
It's, the death of my Oldsmobile, as it were.
All right. Well, Joanna, I'll tell you what. Why don't we get into it? Here's Joanna's story about her Oldsmobile and I guess where it brought you.
Just last week, I celebrated my Carcrashiversary, and if for those of you who don't know me, most people don't celebrate car crashes in the way that I do, but 17 years ago, I broke a telephone pole in half with my big, huge boat of an Oldsmobile. And every year on the 27th of July, I celebrate this date, as it ended up being the best day of the rest of my life. And so that particular day was just beautiful, like any other July day, dry, on the back roads of Vermont, zipping around corners probably faster than I should have been, but windows down and volume up, heading down the back roads of Vermont. And having grown up in the flatlands, I never learned to drive on freshly graded Vermont dirt roads. And on this particular day, I hit a corner and the ass end of the Oldsmobile started to come out from behind me. And I probably overcorrected at this moment. I can say that I did not have the experience to navigate that turn. And I broke a telephone pole in half with my beautiful Oldsmobile, which in all that one moment absolutely broke my heart. And the car was still running, as Oldsmobiles are fairly indestructible. And I had managed to buckle the frame of the car, but did not even break the headlight on the side that had broken the telephone pole. So if that goes to tell you something about this car. And the frame was buckled badly enough that I couldn't get the door open, but I had not injured myself in this crash. So I got out of the car and I was in shock. I had really no idea because the engine was still running. Am I dead? Is this what happens when you get into a tragic accident? And I was just completely gobsmacked. I didn't know what to do. So I started walking down the road and found the nearest farm. And actually, from that point on, I was fairly in shock for the next 4 hours or so. And I was on my way to pick up my then 3-year-old. And he was with family. And so I'm grateful to say he was not in the car at the time. And the next 4 hours, really, I don't remember much of anything. Somehow I managed to get my child. I went to the hospital. I got checked out. I was fine. They sent me home. And, all my fingers and toes everything was just great. And so other than being a little bit tossed around, I was, able to count all of the blessings, despite having broken my baby, my absolute favorite car in the world, still to this day. And the thing that I remembered next was going out onto my front porch. And it was a clear night, stars are out, and that beautiful warm July air that just fairly has a breeze. And I was so angry that I had crashed this car that I loved so much. In addition to the fact that it was the best car in the world, I had recently gotten out of a fairly long, emotionally abusive relationship. And this car had become like my white horse. It had carried me to freedom. It had carried me to a safe place. And here I am now. I'm 20 minutes away from where I work. I'm 20 minutes away from where my child goes to daycare. I have to get myself somehow to work. My entire support system is 150 miles south of here. And I have a couple of incredibly supportive roommates, but we're all fairly young. I mean, we're between the ages of 18 and I think I was 24 at the time. So in this little patchwork house that I lived in, there was 3 or 4 other members of the family. And so here I am in the darkness, sitting on my porch, crying. And I was so overwhelmed with grief that I had lost my white horse that had brought me to safety and freedom. And I cried out into the darkness. And, I tend to think of myself as being spiritual rather than religious. And that sounds a lot of, some people think that's hokey, but, I called out and I said, I don't need you to walk me down the path, but I need a road flare at this point. I'm thinking of my great aunt who raised me. She had passed away just 2 years before that. And I said, Aunt Margie, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. How am I supposed to get to work? I just need a sign. What am I supposed to do? And, all of the fear coming into this place of the unknown where I left this relationship. Would I have to go back to this person who had been so hurtful to me, who had really kept me under their thumb in a way that I didn't get a license until I was 23, almost 24 years old. And so here I had just escaped the situation. And would that be my only path, to staying afloat in this place where I don't have any family? And the next morning I woke up and my wonderful roommates gave me a ride to work. And at the time I worked locally at Amy's Bakery, where I worked for a couple of years. And, Amy's has a very regular crew of customers, wonderful people, gotta love the locals, come in every day and get their coffee. And so I decided that day, I'm going to ask every single person who walks in the door if they know where I can find a new car, because at this point I'm screwed and I am broke and I'm a single mom and I'm making $8.50 an hour plus tips. And so every single person who walked in, I say, hey, just out of curiosity, do you know if I can, where I could find a decent running vehicle that will last me until next tax season? It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to get me from, point A to point B safely, because I have to put my kid in it. And, pretty much everybody said the same. I'll keep my eyes open, keep my ears open. And, all day long, same thing. Just, hey, if you know of anybody who has a car that they might be wanting to get rid of, just send them my way. And later on, the afternoon came and this guy that I had a crush on came in, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a car. If you know of anybody who has a car that they're, able to get rid of inexpensively, I'm really in a situation right now. And he said, I do actually think I know of somebody who may have a car that fits that description. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's great. If, you want to just give me a call here, if you hear anything, that'd be great. So, on with the rest of the day, closed up shop. My roommates gave me a ride home. And the next day I came into work, and sure enough, this guy had found me a car, or had left me a message that said, found a car, give me a call. And there was his phone number. And at first I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then my, having been emotionally abused brain kicks in, and it's like, okay, well, there's obviously an angle to this. This guy is, can't possibly be on the up and up. So I call him, and he says, I do have a friend who has a car. Somebody's grandmother had, parked it in under a tree, and all the belts and hoses are rotted, but $500, you can have it. And $500 was actually more than I could afford, if you can believe that, at the time. And I said, okay, well, I don't have a ride, but, I'd love to go and look at it. And he said, well, if you want to meet me at work. And I somehow managed to get from Amy's Bakery to Solar Hill, where he was. And along the way, I thought, you know what? Nothing sends a guy packing faster than a screaming 3-year-old. So I'm going to bring my toddler. And so we met him, and he was literally shirtless on a tractor. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? So we hop in his very nice vehicle and take a ride down to this junkyard to go and look at this car. And my plan to send him packing backfired pretty much immediately, as my toddler just fell in love with him. And I'm like, what? This isn't even happening. So sure enough, this car ended up being good enough. It was a Pontiac Sunfire or something. We called it the Fire Chicken. It was really bad. It was automatic, and it was ugly as sin, but the price was right. And, I said to the guy, I've only got $250 in cash, but I'm very happy to sign a bill of sale and make payments. So the fact that I couldn't afford a $500 car, again, this is where I was at in my life. And it needed to be trailered because it had no brakes. It had no, serpentine belt. The thing was just, it was running, but not well. So my friend Dave said, you know what? No problem. I can tow it for you. And I said, okay. I'm not in a position to say no at this point. I can't afford anything. And I said, well, I can't afford to get it fixed. And he said, you know what? You're a single mom. I have some fairly decent wrenching skills. Let me take care of it for you. And I thought, all right, I'm getting myself into a situation here. I can't afford this. I can't afford anything. But he was so kind, and he had been my customer at the bakery for a couple of months at this point. So I said, okay, sounds good. So the next couple of weeks rolled on, and this guy became my very good friend. And he would come over and he would fix things. And I didn't have any money to pay him. So I would say, yeah, I could make you food. I could cook you a dinner, pie, something. And in the end, we ended up hanging out quite a bit. And it kind of went on as the summer went on. We just ended up becoming the best of friends. And so my roommates would tease me, and they'd say, your boyfriend's here again. And I'd say, he's not my freaking boyfriend, because Dave was self-described redneck, and not somebody who I would have initially gone after. I would more have described him as a woodchuck. But anyway, so he would just show up and take care of things. And my roommates and I were fairly new at all of the finer Vermont skills, chopping firewood, things like that, and pump would break or something would happen with, the furnace. And Dave was always there, and he would fix whatever was going on. And it was amazing. Dude was so good with everything. And so he was just around a lot, and my son liked him. And my roommates kept teasing me about him. And anyway, we're hanging out one day, and we'd gone for a drive, and my son was with his family, and so we're alone, and we're riding along in his car, and we're listening to music, and all of a sudden there's this uncomfortable silence where I realize, oh my God, this guy is going to say something about our relationship, and I don't want this because we've been getting along just great. And oh my God, I've got to change this situation right now. And so I interrupt this pause and I say, if you happen to meet a nice girl and you think that she's interested in you, you should totally go for it, because this isn't happening. We're just two very different people, and it's not going to go anywhere. We just, we've got two different lives. He grew up in a one-room hunting camp with no running water or electricity, and, broke the ice on the brook to draw water for his bath, as he has told us many times when we let the hot water run. And I grew up for a good chunk of my childhood on the beach in Connecticut. Wasn't wealthy, but, came from a different upbringing entirely. So I said, I don't think that this would work out. We're just two different people. I mean, I really dig your company, but, if you meet a nice girl, don't, hold the pause because you think this is going somewhere, because it's not. And he paused for dramatic effect. And he said, I think you're wrong. I think that is the biggest chicken shit cop-out I have ever heard. I think you're just scared. And I think that we have a lot in common. And I think that we would make a fine couple. We have a lot of things in common. We're both very family-minded, and we have a great time together. So you know what? You just take your time. When you come to a place where you get over yourself, you just let me know, and we'll go from there. And I was so annoyed, but at that exact moment, I realized that I was in love with him. And within about a month, we moved in together. And like I said, 17 years since I crashed my car, and we've been married just for the last 2. We now have a 5-year-old together, and he helped me raise my then 3-year-old, who is now going to be 21 in December. And he managed to help me go from being a single mom who was on public assistance and, again, unable to afford a $500 car, to owning my own business and being an advocate for other people who are in those kind of situations. And anyway, the point of this entire long diatribe is that I celebrate my car crash, because in that moment that I thought my entire world was over and coming to an end, what happened was the universe had removed one thing to make room for something else. And I think that in the COVID era, where we are all so downtrodden and the world is a smoldering dumpster fire, and it just continues to flare up day after day, and we see things on the news that make us want to vomit on a daily basis, myself included. And when we go through things in the context of COVID, we experience loss. I've lost my dog. I mean, there's been things that have happened where you're like, really, this too? Also this, in addition to everything? Okay, fine. And go ahead. Here's another plate. Go ahead. And we have these moments of, despair. But what we don't realize is today might be that day, that wonderful thing that you never even considered was possible is right around the corner. And so therefore you should celebrate your car crashes.
I think it's sound advice. I don't recommend crashing cars, though.
Avoid it if at all possible. Also, when you're on Ames Hill Road going downhill, just take it really easy around the corners.
Tap the brakes a little.
The last one's so easy.
Joanna, thank you for coming on to Virtual Fables and telling your story. We really appreciate you taking the time. and wonderful story. Continued good luck with your how long have you been married now? For 2 years?
Oh yes, we're newlyweds at having been together for 17 years. We've just maybe just a year and a half ago got married for reals.
All right.
We wanted to be sure. We didn't want to rush into anything.
Right. I get it. I have one of those relationships as well. Joanna, thanks for telling your story.
Thanks for having me.